If you've been following the off-road community, you've probably heard whispers about a young female driver who vanished from competitive rock crawling. Katelynn Boren dominated courses that grown men couldn't handle, racking up championship after championship before she was old enough to drive on public roads. Her name kept popping up alongside Matt's Off-Road Recovery, one of YouTube's biggest channels. But then something changed. The podium finishes stopped. The social media posts dried up, and fans started asking the same question: where did she go? The answer isn't what most people think, and the real story behind her connection to Matt's channel might surprise you even more. Katelynn Boren isn't just another name in the off-road world. She's a phenomenon that most people didn't see coming. Born and raised in Hurricane, Utah, this girl started wheeling before most kids get their learner's permit. At just 11 years old, she was already behind the wheel of a rock crawler, learning the ropes from her father, Katelynn Boren, who'd been deep in the sport for over 2 decades. Kevin needed a consistent teammate, someone who could handle the pressure of competitive rock crawling, and he made a bold choice that would change everything. By the time Katelynn turned 14, she wasn't just participating in competitions, she was destroying them. We're talking about courses designed to challenge experienced adult drivers, obstacles that required split-second decisions, and nerves of steel. And here's this teenager, navigating her Jeep Cherokee through impossibly tight gates marked by orange cones, with her dad running circles around the vehicle, shouting directions over the roar of the engine. She wasn't there to make up the numbers. In her last 6 competitions of one season, she finished first in 4 of them and second in the other 2. That's not beginner's luck. That's raw talent combined with dedication that most adults never achieve. The father-daughter team competed under the name Crazy K's, and they quickly became fan favorites in the WE Rock Championship Series. What made their story even more compelling was how Katelynn secured their funding. When her dad mentioned the sport was getting expensive, she didn't wait around. This 14-year-old picked up the phone and personally landed sponsorships from major companies like Maxxis Tires, Yukon Gear, and Axle, and several others. She was learning business skills that kids twice her age struggle with, all while maintaining a competition schedule that had them on the road for 90 hours in a single year. Here's where things get confusing for a lot of people, and it's the reason you're probably watching this video right now. When you search for Katelynn Boren, her name constantly appears alongside Matt's Off-Road Recovery. If you're not familiar, Matt's Off-Road Recovery is a massive YouTube channel run by Matt Wetzel based in Hurricane, Utah. They rescue stuck vehicles, build custom recovery rigs, and have over 1.9 million subscribers. So naturally, when people see Katelynn Boren and Matt's Off-Road Recovery together, they assume she was part of the main crew, maybe even a regular cast member. But that's not the full story. The real connection is simpler than you'd think, though it explains why her name is so intertwined with the channel. Matt's Off-Road Recovery was one of Katelynn's sponsors. Look at any list of her team sponsors from 2021 through 2023, and you'll see Matt's name right there alongside the tire companies and equipment manufacturers. It makes perfect sense when you think about it. They're both from Hurricane, they're both deep in the off-road community, and supporting local talent is exactly the kind of thing Matt's crew does. But she wasn't Lizzie, who welded and went on recoveries. She wasn't Rudy, Matt's son, who fabricated vehicles. Katelynn had her own thing going with her father's rock-crawling team. This sponsorship relationship, combined with both operations being based in the same small Utah town, created an association in people's minds that was stronger than the actual connection. Her LinkedIn profile lists Matt's Off-Road Recovery, which likely reflects either the sponsorship or possibly some form of employment, but she was never a core member of the YouTube channel's recovery crew. The confusion is understandable, but it's important to get the facts straight before we dive into what really happened to her. Success in extreme sports always comes with risk, and for Katelynn, that risk became reality at the worst possible moment. It was Nationals in Farmington, New Mexico, the biggest event of the year. She and Kevin had dominated the season, taking first place in 2 major series. They showed up confident, ready to prove they belonged among the best in the country. The first course started strong. They cleared the first bonus gate and the regular gate too, which other teams had struggled with. Everything was going according to plan until they reached Gate 3. The obstacle was off-camber, meaning the vehicle was tilted at an angle that makes everything harder to control. Katelynn positioned the Jeep perfectly, exactly as they'd practiced countless times. But as they came through the gate, the rear wheel dropped into a hole they hadn't accounted for. The weight shifted wrong. The Jeep started to roll, not just a gentle tip, a full rotation roll. But it didn't stop there. The momentum and the terrain slope turned that single roll into a cartwheel. And the cliff edge that Kevin thought was safely 30 feet away? They reached it. The Cherokee tumbled over the edge, dropping 20 to 30 feet before slamming into the ground below. Kevin watched his daughter disappear over that cliff, and those seconds must have felt like hours. When the dust settled, the Jeep was totaled. The unibody frame was collapsed, the cage crushed on the passenger rear where it had taken the impact. But that cage did its job. Katelynn was alive, shaken, probably bruised, but alive. The Cherokee that had carried them to championships was destroyed, but she'd survived an accident that could have ended very differently. The off-road community rallied immediately, with RME 4x4 forum members organizing a fundraiser that hit $1,000 to help the Borens rebuild and get back to competition. Katelynn's dominance in rock crawling wasn't a fluke, it was methodical destruction of the competition. She and her father Kevin started in the Sportsman C class, which is essentially the entry-level category for stock vehicles. But even in a class meant for beginners, they weren't content with just participating. During the 2021 season, they traveled across the country, hitting competitions in Texas, Colorado, Oklahoma, and multiple venues across Utah. Each event meant hours of preparation, travel time, and intense 10-minute runs through courses that could end a competition in seconds if you made one wrong move. What separated Katelynn from other drivers was her ability to handle pressure that would crack experienced competitors. Rock crawling isn't like other motorsports. You're navigating massive boulders, steep inclines, and off-camber situations where one wrong wheel placement means you're rolling. And you've got a spotter, in her case, her dad, running around the vehicle, directing you through gates marked by cones that you absolutely cannot hit. Hit a cone? Penalty. Need to reverse? Penalty. Run out of your 10 minutes? You're done. The scoring system rewards precision and speed, and Katelynn excelled at both. Her success caught the attention of local media, and a KSL News feature highlighted just how remarkable her achievements were. Here's a 14-year-old girl competing against men her father's age, and not just competing, winning. She won both the Eastern and Western Series championships, qualifying for nationals with a target on her back. By the end of that season, Katelynn had proven she wasn't just a novelty act or a feel-good story. She was a legitimate threat to anyone who lined up against her, regardless of their age, experience, or equipment. After the Nationals accident, most people expected Katelynn to take time off, maybe even walk away from the sport entirely. A crash like that changes you. But the Borens aren't quitters. They took the good parts from the totaled Cherokee and started building a new buggy, this time stepping up to the Pro Mod class, a more competitive tier with purpose-built vehicles rather than modified stock Jeeps. It was an ambitious move, especially after such a devastating accident, but it showed their commitment to the sport wasn't shaken. Throughout 2022 and 2023, Katelynn continued competing, though details from this period are harder to find. She was still listed as a driver for Crazy K's Off-Road, still had her sponsors, and her name appeared on competition rosters. The Utah Public Lands Alliance announced their sponsorship of her for the 2023 WE Rock Pro Series, noting she'd been competing since age 13. Competition results showed she was still placing well, including a second-place finish at a 2023 event where she posted the lowest score in the final shootout. She'd proven that the Nationals accident hadn't ended her career, but then things started changing. In June 2024, her father Kevin posted a competition report on the RME 4x4 forums about the Delta Classic Rock Crawl. The first line was telling, "Unfortunately, Katelynn decided to not come this year, so we switched some things up." Instead of Katelynn driving, Kevin took the wheel himself, with his youngest son Sydney as spotter. The post was matter of fact, no drama, no explanation, just a simple statement that she'd chosen not to attend. They still finished second place, proving the Boren family's skills ran deep, but it marked the first time in years that Katelynn had opted out of a major competition. After that, the trail goes cold. This is where the mystery really kicks in, because there's no dramatic announcement, no farewell video, no social media post explaining her absence. Katelynn Boren simply faded from competitive rock crawling without fanfare. Her LinkedIn profile still lists Matt's off-road recovery, suggesting some form of ongoing relationship with the company, whether that's sponsorship, employment, or something else entirely. But concrete information about her current activities, that's nearly impossible to find. The most logical explanation isn't sinister, it's natural life progression. If Katelynn was 14 in 2021, that makes her roughly 18 or 19 years old now in 2025. That's prime age for major life transitions, college decisions, career exploration. Maybe she wanted to experience normal teenage and young adult life instead of spending every weekend traveling to competitions. Rock crawling at a professional level isn't just a hobby, it's a lifestyle that demands enormous time, money, and dedication. Even with sponsors, the Borens were putting in 90-plus hours on the road per year, plus prep time, plus the actual competitions. That's a huge commitment for someone who's still figuring out what they want from life. There's also the physical and mental toll to consider. She survived a major accident that totaled her vehicle. Even though she came back and competed afterward, experiences like that leave a mark. Maybe she decided the risk wasn't worth it anymore. Or maybe she's simply taking a break, working behind the scenes in the off-road industry, building skills and connections that will serve her later. Her father Kevin continues competing with his younger son, so the family's passion for rock crawling clearly hasn't died. But for now, Katelynn's current chapter remains largely unwritten in the public eye, leaving fans to wonder if they'll ever see her dominate another podium. The story of Katelynn Boren is a reminder that not every disappearance from the public eye needs a dramatic explanation. Sometimes the most talented people simply choose a different path, and that's okay. She accomplished more before her 16th birthday than most drivers achieve in a lifetime: multiple championships, national recognition, and respect from competitors twice her age. Her legacy as one of the youngest and most successful female rock crawlers in the sport's history is secure, regardless of whether she ever competes again. What makes her story compelling isn't just her success, but how she achieved it. She didn't have some massive corporate backing or famous family connections. She had a father who believed in her, a work ethic that impressed everyone who met her, and the nerve to pick up a phone and secure her own sponsorships before she was old enough to work most jobs. Those skills, persistence, confidence, business savvy, translate to success in any field. Whether she's in college, working in the off-road industry, or pursuing something completely different, it's hard to imagine Katelynn not excelling. As for the connection to Matt's off-road recovery, now you know the truth. She was never a main cast member of the YouTube channel, never went on recoveries with Matt and the crew. The association came from sponsorship and shared geography, amplified by the internet's tendency to connect dots that aren't quite touching. But that doesn't make her story any less interesting. If anything, it makes it more impressive. She built her own reputation in her own sport, separate from YouTube fame. Will Katelynn return to competitive rock crawling? That's the question fans still debate. Maybe she's waiting for the right moment, building a new rig, planning a comeback that'll shock everyone who thought she was done. Or maybe she's perfectly happy living life away from the cameras and competition pressure, and that's a choice that deserves respect. Either way, Katelynn Boren proved something important. Age and gender don't determine what you're capable of. Talent, dedication, and refusing to accept limitations, that's what makes champions. And wherever she is now, that champion mentality didn't disappear just because she stepped away from the spotlight.